The chamber was massive, floating in the void of space around a dying star. Ji-won Kim stood alone on a circular platform that hovered in the center of the room. Around her, in every direction, sat the representatives of 47 alien species. Some glowed with soft blue light. Others looked like living crystals. A few were just clouds of gas held together by force fields. But all of them were staring at her. Ji-won wore a simple black suit, her dark hair tied back neatly. She kept her face calm, even though her heart was beating fast. This was humanity's first real meeting with the Galactic Council, and it was not going well. High Chancellor Vexler floated forward. He was tall and thin, with skin that shimmered like oil on water. His voice came from everywhere at once, translated instantly into every language in the room, including Korean and English for Ji-won's benefit. "Human representative?" Vexler began, his tone cold and formal. "The Galactic Council has observed your species for 3 of your years. We have watched your planet. We have studied your history. And we have reached a decision." Ji-won said nothing. She had been warned this moment would come, but she had hoped for better news. "Humanity is dangerous," Vexler continued. "Your species wages war constantly. You fight each other over resources, over beliefs, over invisible lines on your planet. Your weapons grow more destructive with each passing year. You damage your own world without care for the future. By our measurements, you are a Category 5 threat to galactic peace." Murmurs of agreement rippled through the chamber. Ji-won noticed that not a single alien spoke in her defense. "Therefore," Vexler said, his voice growing harder, "the Council demands Earth's immediate surrender. You will dismantle all military forces. You will submit to Council oversight in all matters of government and technology. You will accept population controls to limit your expansion. You have 1 lunar cycle 28 of your days to comply. If you refuse, we will enforce this decree by force." The chamber fell silent. Every eye, lens, and sensory organ focused on the lone human standing in the center of the room. Ji-won took a slow breath. Then she did something that shocked every being present. She laughed. It started as a small chuckle, but it grew into genuine, warm laughter. The sound echoed strangely in the vast chamber. Aliens looked at each other in confusion. Some shifted uncomfortably. Vexler's shimmer darkened with what might have been anger. "You find this amusing?" he demanded. Ji-won wiped a tear from her eye and composed herself. "I apologize, High Chancellor. That was rude of me. But I need to consult with my government before I can respond properly to your offer." "This is not an offer. It is a command." "Of course," Ji-won said, her smile never wavering. "Even so, I would like to request a brief recess. Say 48 hours? I promise you'll have Earth's answer then?" Vexler considered this. The Council had never had a species laugh at an ultimatum before, but they were confident in their position. Let the humans have their final days of false hope. "Very well. 48 hours. Then you will return with your compliance." "Thank you, Chancellor." Ji-won bowed slightly and stepped off the platform. As she walked toward the exit, she could feel thousands of alien eyes following her. None of them understood why she was smiling, halfway across the galaxy. Deep beneath the city of Seoul, Captain Daeun Park sat in front of a wall of screens. The Unified Defense Command bunker had been built during the nervous years after humanity first detected alien signals in space. Now it was the nerve center of Earth's response to first contact. Daeun was a lean man in his 40s, with sharp eyes and graying hair at his temples. He had spent 20 years in the military and the last 5 preparing for exactly this scenario. Around him, dozens of officers and analysts worked at their stations, monitoring everything from orbital sensors to deep space telescopes. President Min-ho Choi entered the room, followed by Admiral Hae-jin Lee. Min-ho was younger than most world leaders, only 52. With the calm demeanor of someone who had dealt with too many crises to panic easily. Hae-jin was a solid woman with steel gray hair and the kind of face that never revealed what she was thinking. "Show me the transmission," Min-ho said. Daeun pulled up the recording of Ji-won's meeting with the council. They watched in silence as Vexler delivered his ultimatum. When Jiwon laughed, Haijin's lips twitched into a small smile. "She has nerve," the Admiral said. "She has faith," Minho corrected. "The question is, are we ready?" Dae-Yun stood and walked to a secure terminal. He entered a long password and pressed his thumb to a scanner. The main screen changed, showing files marked with the highest security classification. "Project Perseverance has been operational for 6 years, Dae-Yun said. "The Kuiper fleet is at full strength. 200 ships, all equipped with quantum drives, zero-point reactors, and gravitational manipulation systems. The Council doesn't know they exist? And Operation Backyard?" Minho asked. "The defense grid is complete. Every major city has shield generators. The orbital platforms are armed and ready. If they attack Earth directly, they'll be in for a surprise." Haijin pulled up another file. "Our intelligence on the Council is solid. Their technology is advanced, but it's old. They haven't fought a real war in thousands of years. Their ships are built for show and light peacekeeping, not serious combat." Minho walked slowly around the room, hands behind his back. "So we can defend ourselves. The question is, should we?" "Sir?" Dae-Yun looked confused. "The Council thinks we're primitive warmongers," Minho said. "If we reveal our strength too aggressively, we prove them right. But if we surrender, humanity becomes a slave species. There has to be a middle path." Haijin nodded slowly. "A demonstration? Show them we're not helpless, but also show them we're not the monsters they think we are." "Exactly," Minho said. He turned to Dae-Yun. "Captain, I want you to prepare a response that makes one thing clear: humanity will never surrender. But we're not starting a war either. Can you do that?" Dae-Yun thought for a moment, then smiled. It was the kind of smile that made people nervous. "Yes, sir. I have an idea." "Good. You have 48 hours. Across the solar system, beyond Neptune's orbit, the Kuiper Belt was home to billions of chunks of ice and rock. It was cold, dark, and empty. Or at least, that's what it looked like to anyone scanning the area. In reality, it was anything but empty. Commander Ji-Hoon Kong stood on the bridge of the Indomitable Spirit, humanity's first true warship. The bridge was clean and modern, with holographic displays showing every system status. Through the view screen, he could see dozens of other ships hanging in space, their hulls absorbing light to stay invisible to sensors. "Commander, we're receiving a priority transmission from Earth," his communications officer said. "Put it through." Captain Dae-Yun's face appeared on the screen. "Commander Kang, I hope your people are rested. You're about to have visitors." Ji-Hoon straightened. "The Council? They're sending a subjugation fleet? We need to send them a message they'll never forget. Non-lethal engagement only, but make it impressive." "Understood, sir. We'll be ready." As the transmission ended, Ji-Hoon turned to his crew. They were the best humanity had to offer. Fighter pilots, engineers, scientists who had become soldiers because they understood what was at stake. They had trained in secret for years, waiting for the moment when Earth might need them. "All ships, this is Kang wake-up protocols. I want every vessel at full readiness in 12 hours. We're about to show the galaxy what humans are really made of." On the Council station, Jiwon sat alone in her quarters, sipping tea and reviewing her notes. In 2 days, she would return to that chamber. She would deliver Earth's answer, and the galaxy would never be the same. The Council's intelligence division occupied 3 entire levels of the orbital station. Thousands of analysts from dozens of species worked day and night, gathering information about every corner of the galaxy. They were good at their job. They were thorough. They were careful, but they had made one critical mistake with humanity. Analyst Third-class Zormix reviewed the Earth files for the 100th time. The data was clear. Humans had nuclear weapons, but they were primitive fission devices. Their rockets used chemical combustion. Their computers were basic. Their largest warships were floating metal boxes that couldn't even leave their own gravity well. Category 5 threat assessment confirmed, Zormix reported to his supervisor. The humans are violent but technologically limited. They pose no military threat to Council forces. His supervisor approved the report without question. After all, the Council had been doing this for 10,000 years. They knew how to evaluate a species. What they didn't know was that humans had been lying to them from the start. Dr. Sugi Kwan stood in her laboratory, 300 meters below the Arizona desert. The facility didn't exist on any map. Its power came from a zero-point reactor that left no heat signature. Its walls were lined with quantum dampeners that made it invisible to every scanner the Council possessed. Suji was 58 years old, with short gray hair and eyes that never stopped moving. She had 3 doctorate degrees and had spent the last 30 years asking one simple question: what if they're not friendly? When humanity detected the first alien signals 70 years ago, most people celebrated. First contact. Proof of intelligent life. A new era for mankind. But a few people, a very few, asked the darker question. What if the aliens were hostile? What if humanity needed to defend itself against threats it couldn't even imagine? Those few people had been ignored, called paranoid, called warmongers. But they had also been given a small amount of funding, tucked away in black budgets where nobody looked too closely. They were told to prepare for the worst, just in case, and they had. Dr. Kwan, the test is ready, her assistant called. Suji. I walked to the observation window. Below her, in a chamber the size of an aircraft hangar, sat humanity's latest achievement. It looked like a small metal sphere, barely a meter across. It didn't look impressive. That was the point. Activate, Suji said. The sphere hummed. Space around it began to bend, visible as a shimmer in the air. Then suddenly the sphere wasn't there anymore. It had moved 300 meters across the chamber in an instant, without crossing the space in between. Quantum tunneling drive is stable, the assistant reported. Zero emissions, no energy signature, instantaneous transit. Suji smiled. The Council used warp drives that bent space around their ships. Humanity had invented something better. Their ships didn't bend space. They simply stopped existing in one place and started existing in another. How long until the fleet can be equipped? Suji asked. Already done. Commander Kong has been running field tests for 6 months. Good, the Council scouts? Still detecting nothing but our decoy signals. As far as they know, we can barely reach our own moon. Sugi looked at the sphere, now sitting quietly in the center of the chamber. Let's keep it that way. For now, in orbit around Earth, Council scout drones drifted silently, watching and recording. They were sophisticated machines, capable of detecting everything from radio waves to neutrino emissions. They mapped Earth's military bases, counted its ships, analyzed its weapons, and they saw exactly what humanity wanted them to see. The decoy program had been Dayan's idea. For every real military base, humanity built a fake one on the surface, full of old equipment and obvious activity. The real bases were underground, shielded, invisible. For every obsolete warship floating in Earth's orbit, 10 advanced vessels hid in the Kuiper Belt, wrapped in stealth technology that bent sensor beams around them like water around a stone. The Council's scouts reported that Earth had approximately 50 military spacecraft. The real number was 250. The scouts reported that humanity's most powerful weapon was the hydrogen bomb. They had no idea that human scientists had weaponized gravity itself. It was the greatest magic trick in human history, and the audience had no idea they were being fooled. 40-8 hours passed quickly. Ambassador Jiwon returned to the Council chamber, walking with the same calm confidence she had shown before. The aliens watched her approach the center platform, many of them exchanging satisfied glances. The human had surely come to announce Earth's surrender. Vexler floated forward. Human representative, have you brought your government's compliance? I have brought my government's response, Jiwon said. She held up a small data device. May I transmit to the Council's network? Proceed. Jiwon activated the device. Every screen in the chamber lit up simultaneously. The aliens leaned forward, expecting to see documents of surrender. Treaties, agreements, instead they saw themselves. The footage showed Council scout drones, from angles that should have been impossible. The view was from inside the drones themselves, from cameras the council thought were secure. The footage showed the drones transmitting their reports, showed the encrypted data streams, showed classified information that no outsider should have been able to access. Then the view shifted. Now they were looking at Council Intelligence Division, at analysts reviewing Earth files, at security meetings where council members discussed the human problem. Every conversation, every secret plan, every private moment, all recorded. All observed that the chamber erupted in chaos. Aliens shouted in a dozen languages. Security officers rushed to their stations. Vexler's shimmer turned a dark, angry red. "How did you get this?" he demanded. Jawan's expression remained calm. "We've been watching you watch us, Chancellor. Your scouts are very sophisticated. But you made an assumption about humanity. You assumed we were primitive. You assumed we couldn't possibly match your technology. You were wrong. This is impossible, is it?" Jiwan gestured to the screens, still showing classified council footage. "We've had access to your surveillance network for over a year. We know your fleet positions. We know your weapon specifications. We know your security protocols. You know almost nothing about us?" Vexler floated closer, his voice dropping to a dangerous whisper. "Are you threatening the council?" "No," Jiwan said simply. "I'm telling you the truth. You demanded Earth's surrender because you thought we were helpless. We're not. You thought you held all the power in this relationship. You don't. What we want, Chancellor, is what you offered every other species that joined the council: respect, partnership, equality. You are a violent species." "Yes," Jiwan agreed. "We have fought many wars. We have made many mistakes. But we have also survived things that would have destroyed softer species. Our history made us strong. It made us clever. It made us very, very careful about threats." She touched the data device again. Now the screen showed something new. Images of ships, human ships, designs the council had never seen. Images of weapons, of defenses, of technology that looked decades ahead of council standards. "This is a fraction of what we've built," Jawan said. "We don't share this to brag. We share it so you understand. We cannot be forced to surrender. We will not be treated as inferiors. But we also don't want to be your enemies." The chamber was silent now. Every alien stared at the screens, at the impossible technology, at the proof that they had completely misjudged this strange species from a small blue planet. "What do you want?" Vexler finally asked, his voice tired. "A partnership," Juwan said. "Not as subjects. Not as children who need guidance. As equals who have something to offer. You have knowledge, experience, thousands of years of peace and prosperity. We have something you've forgotten. The ability to survive when survival is difficult. The drive to innovate when innovation is necessary. The will to fight when fighting is unavoidable." She looked around the chamber, meeting the eyes of every representative who would look at her. "We're not asking to join your council through surrender. We're asking to join as partners. And if you refuse, we'll go our own way. We'll leave you alone and you'll leave us alone. But I think we can offer each other something valuable. If you're willing to see past your first impressions." Vexler was quiet for a long time. Finally he spoke. "The council will deliberate on this matter. You will wait for our decision." Iwan bowed. "Of course, Chancellor. Take all the time you need. But you should know we've already made our decision. We choose peace as peace is possible, but we will never choose surrender." She walked off the platform, leaving the council in stunned silence. The council deliberated for 3 days. The debates were fierce. Some representatives argued that humanity's defiance proved they were too dangerous to tolerate. Others suggested that perhaps they had been too hasty in their judgment. But one faction, led by the military arm of the council, demanded action. "They have humiliated us," War Master Krellinax declared, his massive armored form dominating the chamber. "They have infiltrated our systems. They have mocked our authority. This cannot stand. Krellonax belonged to a species that had once been warriors, before they had been civilized by the Council 3,000 years ago. He still carried the instincts of his ancestors, buried beneath layers of protocol and procedure. And right now, those instincts were screaming that humanity posed a real threat. "I propose we send a subjugation fleet to Earth," Krellonax continued. "Not to destroy them, but to demonstrate that Council authority is absolute. Once they see true galactic military power, they will understand the futility of resistance." Vexler hesitated. The Council had not sent a military force to subjugate a species in over 1,000 years. It went against their principles. But humanity had broken protocol, had accessed classified systems, had shown capabilities that threatened the balance of power. "Very well," Vexler finally agreed. "Assemble a subjugation fleet. 80 vessels. Travel to Earth and enforce Council authority. But," he added firmly, "minimal casualties. We are not murderers." Krellonax bowed. "As you command, Chancellor." In the Unified Defense Command bunker, alarms began blaring. Dayan rushed to the main display, where a formation of 80 alien spacecraft had just been detected entering human space. "Distance?" he barked. 3 light hours in closing. Eta to Earth orbit is 6 hours at their current speed. President Minho entered the room, followed closely by Admiral Haijin. They had known this might happen, but the reality of it still sent a chill through the air. "Is Jiwan safe?" Minho asked. "She evacuated to our secure station before they left Council space. She's watching from a safe distance." "Good." Minho studied the display. "Captain, it's time." "Alert Commander Kang." Dayan nodded and opened a secure channel. "Kuiper Fleet, this is Earth Command. Execute Operation Welcome." In the cold darkness beyond Neptune, 200 warships came to life. Reactor cores that had been running at minimal power ramped up to full strength. Weapon systems initialized. Quantum drives calculated jump coordinates. Commander Ji-hoon stood on the bridge of the Indomitable Spirit, watching his crew work with practiced efficiency. They had drilled for this scenario 100 times. Now it was real. "All ships report ready," his tactical officer, Yunishin, reported. She was young, barely 30, but she had a gift for spatial tactics that bordered on supernatural. "Excellent," Ji-hoon said. "Remember, we are not here to start a war. We're here to end one before it begins. Non-lethal engagement only. Our goal is to demonstrate capability, not to kill." "Understood." "Sir, then let's go say hello to our guests." The Council fleet emerged from faster-than-light travel at the edge of Earth's solar system. War Master Krellonax stood at the command center of his flagship, a massive dreadnought that had seen action in the Council's last real conflict. "Over 1,000 years ago, status," he commanded. "We are detecting multiple orbital platforms around the third planet," his sensor officer reported. "Approximately 50 spacecraft in various orbits. Old designs match our intelligence reports." "Primitive," Krellonax muttered. "Prepare to broadcast our demands. All human military forces are to power down their weapons and prepare for boarding. Resistance will result in destruction of military assets." Before he could give the order to transmit, alarms screamed across his bridge. "Sir!" Detecting massive energy signatures. "Multiple contacts appearing in our vicinity." "What? Where?" "Everywhere." The view screen changed to show the tactical situation. In the span of 3 seconds, 200 human warships had appeared in formation around the Council fleet. Not approaching from a distance. Not detected slowly on sensors. They had simply materialized, surrounding the Council vessels in a perfect sphere. Krellonax stared in disbelief. "That's impossible. Nothing can jump that precisely." "Nothing can. They're targeting us, sir?" "All of them." The War Master's training kicked in. "Battle stations. Charge weapons. All ships prepare for..." A voice cut through every communication channel on every Council ship simultaneously. It spoke in perfect galactic standard, calm and professional. "Council Fleet, this is Captain Dayan Park of the Unified Earth Defense Force. You are trespassing in human space. Please state your intentions." Krillanax activated his communication system. "This is War Master Krillanax of the Council, Subjugation Fleet. We are here by authority of the Galactic Council to enforce their decree. Your planet will surrender all military assets immediately, or we will take them by force." There was a pause. Then Daeyeon's voice came again, and there was something in his tone that made even Krillanax nervous. It was amusement. "War Master, we received your government's decree. We declined. If you wish to enforce it by force, you are welcome to try. In fact, I insist. Please open fire on any of our vessels. Think of it as target practice. You're insane." "Perhaps. Or perhaps we're confident. Only one way to find out." Krillanax looked at his tactical display. His fleet was surrounded, but 80 ships against 200 was not an impossible fight. And Council weapons were proven technology, refined over millennia. "All ships," he ordered. "Fire at will." 80 warships unleashed their full arsenal simultaneously. Plasma beams hot enough to vaporize mountains. Antimatter missiles that could crack a planet's crust. Particle cannons that could strip atoms apart. The amount of energy released in that moment could have sterilized a continent. The human ships absorbed it all without a flicker. Shields surrounded each human vessel, but they weren't shields in the traditional sense. Instead of energy barriers, they used localized gravity manipulation. The Council's weapons struck the gravity wells, and their energy was redirected, bent away from the ships and dispersed harmlessly into space on the Indomitable Spirit's bridge. Not a single alarm sounded. "Damage report?" Ji-hoon asked calmly. "None, sir," Yuna replied. "Their weapons can't penetrate the gravity shields." Just as predicted. "Good, show them what we can do." The human fleet didn't return fire with weapons. Instead, they activated their gravitational manipulation systems at a different setting. Invisible beams of controlled gravity reached out from each human ship, touching the Council vessels gently but firmly, and then the Council ships began to move, not violently, not destructively, but completely against their pilots' control. One by one, each Council vessel was pushed, pulled, and rotated into a new position. Their engines fired at full power, trying to break free, but it made no difference. The human ships moved them like a child arranging toys. Within 2 minutes, the entire Council fleet had been repositioned into a perfect sphere, all facing inward toward the Indomitable Spirit at the center. Krillanax gripped his command chair, his face a mixture of rage and fear. "This is impossible. Nothing can generate gravitational fields with this precision. Nothing can—" "Attention, Council fleet," Daeyeon's voice cut through again. "We have demonstrated that we can move your ships anywhere we want. We could arrange you into a pretty picture if we felt like it. We could also have crushed your ships into spheres of compressed metal. We chose not to." The captain paused, letting that sink in. "We could have destroyed you," he continued, his voice harder now. "We chose not to. Return to the Council. Tell them that humanity seeks peace. Tell them we're willing to negotiate, to trade, to share knowledge and friendship. But tell them we will never surrender. And tell them the next fleet they send, we might not be so gentle." Krillanax sat in his command chair, defeated in a way that hurt worse than any physical wound. His fleet hadn't just been beaten. It had been toyed with, handled like children's playthings. "Release us," he said quietly. "Already done," Daeyeon replied. "Your controls are your own again? Safe travels, War Master. Think about what you've seen here. The gravity field's released. The Council ships hung in space, surrounded by human vessels that could have destroyed them at any moment but hadn't. All ships," Krillanax ordered, his voice heavy with shame. "Return to Council space." As the Council fleet limped away, Ji-hoon watched them go. Yuna stood beside him, a small smile on her face. "Do you think they got the message, sir?" she asked. "Oh yes," Ji-hoon replied. "They got it loud and clear. Now we wait to see if they understand it." On the Council station, Ji-won watched the footage of the encounter that had been transmitted back. She allowed herself a small smile. It had been a gamble, but it had worked. Humanity had shown its teeth without drawing blood. Now came the hard part. Turning a defeated enemy into an uncertain friend. But if anyone could do it, she thought, humanity could. After all, they had been doing it to each other for thousands of years. The council chamber was quieter than Vexler had ever heard it. War Master Krellenax stood in the center, making his report. His massive armored form seemed smaller somehow, diminished by the weight of his failure. "They moved our entire fleet like we were toys," Krellenax said, his voice hollow. "Our weapons couldn't touch them. Their technology is beyond anything in our databases. We were completely outmatched." Silence fell over the chamber. For 10,000 years, the Council had been the supreme authority in the galaxy. No species had ever defied them successfully. No species had ever needed to dot until now. "This is a disaster," one representative hissed. "If word spreads that we were defeated so easily, our authority will crumble." "We were not defeated," Vexler said carefully. "We were educated." "There is a difference." "What do you mean?" "The humans could have destroyed our fleet. Instead, they embarrassed it. They demonstrated overwhelming force, then released us unharmed. That is not the action of a violent species. That is the action of a species that understands power and chooses restraint." An older representative, a being that looked like a floating jellyfish made of light, spoke up. "Perhaps we have misunderstood what humanity is." "Explain," Vexler said. "I am Thelaros, an archaeologist prime of the Council. I have studied 1,000 civilizations across 10,000 years. Every species that joined the Council shared a common pattern. They developed on worlds that were abundant. Mild climates. Rich resources. Few predators. They grew slowly, peacefully, and when they reached the stars, they were already unified." Thelaros paused, its light pulsing thoughtfully. "But Earth is different. The data shows a world of extremes. Violent weather, scarce resources, deadly predators everywhere. And humans competed not just with nature, but with each other. They didn't unify until after they developed spaceflight. They fought wars while developing nuclear weapons. They nearly destroyed themselves a dozen times." "So they are violent," someone said. "No," Thelaros replied. "They are survivors. Every challenge made them stronger, more clever, more resourceful. We have been judging them by our standards, but our standards don't apply. We evolved in paradise. They evolved in hell. And somehow, they not only survived, they thrived." Vexler listened carefully. "What are you suggesting?" "That we invite them here. Not as prisoners, but as guests. Let us try to understand them before we make any more mistakes." The Chancellor considered this. It was risky. It was unprecedented. But so was everything about humanity. "Very well," Vexler decided. "Extend an invitation to Earth, cultural exchange. Scientists, historians, diplomats. Let us learn about each other properly this time." 3 weeks later, Dr. Suji Kwan stepped off a transport ship onto the Council's primary research station. She was accompanied by a team of 20 human researchers, all experts in different fields. Anthropology, physics, biology, history, philosophy. The station was beautiful. Massive gardens grew in controlled biomes. Architecture flowed in organic curves that seemed to grow naturally rather than being built. Everywhere she looked, Suji saw evidence of a civilization that had perfected peaceful coexistence. Their guide was a council scientist named Pelther, a being that looked vaguely like a tall, thin bear with iridescent fur. He was enthusiastic and friendly, showing them around with obvious pride. "This research wing was built 4,000 years ago," Pelther explained. "We have never needed to update it. Everything still works perfectly." 4,000 years? Suji asked. "And you never improved the design?" "Why would we? It serves its purpose." Suji exchanged glances with her colleague, Professor Youngji Han. Youngji was a fusion physicist who specialized in pushing the boundaries of what was possible. The idea of using the same design for 4,000 years made her visibly uncomfortable. "Don't you ever want to innovate?" Youngji asked. "Try new things? Experiment?" Pelther looked confused. But we have everything we need. Our technology provides comfort, health, and happiness. What more would we want? That night, the human team gathered in their quarters to compare notes. The picture that emerged was fascinating and troubling. They've stagnated, Suji said bluntly. They reached a comfortable level of technology thousands of years ago, and then they just stopped. Not entirely, Yunji corrected. They make incremental improvements, but nothing revolutionary. Nothing that requires taking risks. A historian named Bora Yang leaned forward. I've been reading their history archives. Every species that joined the Council unified peacefully within 2,000 years of developing agriculture. No major wars. No existential threats. They grew up safe. And we didn't, Suji finished. Earth tried to kill us in 1,000 different ways. Ice ages, plagues, predators, and then each other. We had to innovate or die. We had to take risks because the alternative was extinction. So we're more advanced because we suffered more? Someone asked. Not more advanced, Yunji said thoughtfully. Differently advanced. They perfected the technology they needed for peaceful civilization. We perfected the technology needed for survival. They make better medical equipment. We make better engines. They've created paradise. We've created tools to survive hell. Meanwhile, Council scientists were visiting Earth with similar culture shock. A team led by Felleros toured human cities, factories, research labs. What they found amazed them. Human cities were chaotic compared to Council settlements. Buildings of different styles and ages stood side by side. Traffic flowed in what looked like barely controlled chaos. Everywhere they looked, humans were busy, rushing from place to place with urgent purpose. Why do you move so fast? Felleros asked his guide, Ambassador Jiwan. Jiwan smiled. Because we have limited time. Human lifespans are short compared to most Council species. We pack as much life as we can into the years we have. In a factory outside Shanghai, they watched robots and humans working together to build components for spacecraft. The efficiency was remarkable, but what struck Felleros was the rate of change. How old is this production line? He asked. 3 years, the factory manager replied. We'll probably upgrade it next year. Better designs, better efficiency? You replace functional equipment? We replace good equipment with better equipment. Standing still means falling behind. That night, Felleros made his report to the Council. Humans do not think in terms of reaching a destination and stopping. They think in terms of constantly moving forward. They innovate not because they need to, but because they want to. It is fundamental to how they see the universe. Vexler listened to reports from both sides. Slowly a picture emerged. 2 very different civilizations, shaped by very different worlds with very different strengths. What do you recommend? He asked Felleros. Partnership, the archaeologist said immediately. The Council has knowledge and experience. Thousands of years of peaceful civilization. We can teach humanity about cooperation, about building lasting institutions, about medicine and art, but humanity has something we've forgotten. What is that? The ability to push boundaries, to take risks, to innovate when innovation seems impossible. We've been at peace for so long, we've forgotten how to solve hard problems. But humans face hard problems every day. It makes them creative in ways we're not. Vexler was quiet for a long time. Finally, he spoke. Ambassador Jiwan Kim has requested an audience. She wishes to make a formal proposal. Let her speak, Felleros said. I think we should listen this time. Jiwan entered the Council chamber a week later. This time, the atmosphere was different. Still formal, but no longer hostile. Curious eyes watched her approach instead of hostile ones. Hi, Chancellor, Jiwan began. On behalf of humanity, I wish to make an offer. Earth has technology that could benefit the Council. Zero-point energy. Quantum tunneling drives. Gravitational manipulation. Medical techniques for species that live in hostile environments. We would like to share this knowledge, and in return? Vexler asked. We want access to Council medical technology. Your people have conquered diseases that still kill millions of humans. We want your terraforming knowledge to help us expand to new worlds. We want to learn from your experience in maintaining peace across thousands of light years. This sounds like the partnership we initially offered you, Vexler said. But you refused. No, Jiwan corrected gently. You offered subjugation disguised as partnership. You wanted us to surrender first, then join as subordinates. What we're proposing is different. We join as equals. We share knowledge freely. We respect each other's sovereignty. And we work together to build something better than either of us could build alone. Professor Yunji stepped forward carrying a data device. As a gesture of good faith, we're sharing the complete specifications for our zero-point reactors. Unlimited clean energy. We're giving it to you freely right now with no conditions. A murmur ran through the chamber. Free technology? No species gave away such valuable secrets. Why? Vexler asked suspiciously. Because we're not competitors, Jiwan said simply. We're potential partners. And partners help each other. The council deliberated for 2 days. Then Vexler called Jiwan back to the chamber. The council has voted, he said. We accept your proposal. Earth will join the Galactic Council as a probationary member for 3 years. During this time, we will share knowledge and work together. If both sides are satisfied. 3 years passed quickly. The probationary period had exceeded everyone's expectations. Human engineers worked alongside council technicians, combining different approaches to create solutions neither could have found alone. Council medical. Teams cured diseases that had plagued Earth for centuries. Human physicists helped council scientists rediscover the joy of pushing boundaries. Admiral Haijin Lee stood on the bridge of the exploration vessel Discovery, watching the final checks before departure. The ship was a joint project combining council and human technology. Its crew was mixed, 20 humans and 30 aliens working together as naturally as if they'd been doing it for decades. All systems ready, Admiral, the navigation officer reported. He was a council member named Torvek, and he'd spent 2 years training with human crews. Excellent, Haijin said. Begin jump sequence. The Discovery was part of the Joint Exploration Initiative, mapping unexplored regions of the galaxy. Today, they were heading to the Galactic Rim, a region the Council had mostly ignored because it was too far from settled space to be useful. The jump took 3 hours. When they emerged, space looked different. Fewer stars, more darkness. They were at the edge of the galaxy, looking out at the vast emptiness between galaxies. Beginning sensor sweeps, the science officer announced. Captain Seojun Park, a young officer and Daeun's cousin, monitored the readings carefully. For 2 hours, they found nothing but empty space and a few scattered stars. Then the sensors picked up something unusual. Admiral, I'm detecting debris, Seojun reported. Large quantities, multiple compositions. Some of it looks very old. Show me, Haijin ordered. The main screen displayed the sensor data. A field of wreckage stretched for millions of kilometers. Broken ships, shattered stations, fragments that might have once been entire worlds. This is a battlefield, Torvik said quietly. But who fought here? Unknown, Seojin replied. But Admiral, there's something else. I'm detecting energy signatures at the edge of our range. Thousands of them, and they're moving. Moving toward us? No. Moving toward the galaxy, moving toward council space. Haijin felt ice form in her stomach. Get me a visual. Maximum magnification. The screen changed. At first it showed only darkness. Then shapes began to resolve. Ships, thousands upon thousands. Of ships, all identical, all moving in perfect formation. What are we looking at? Haijin asked. Analyzing now, the science officer said. The ships are approximately 300 meters long. Composition is mostly metallic, with some organic components. Design doesn't match any known species. They appear to be. Admiral, they're converting matter into more ships. They're growing. Seojun's face had gone pale. It's a von Neumann swarm. Self-replicating machines. They harvest matter and build copies of themselves. How many? Haijin demanded. Current count is over 50,000 ships. But they're building more. At their current rate, they'll double in number every 6 months. Haijin made a decision immediately. Send all data back to Earth and Council Command. Priority 1, then get us out of here, maximum speed. They're changing course. Someone shouted. They've detected us. Jump now? Haijin ordered. The Discovery vanished in a flash of light. Behind them, the swarm continued its slow, inexorable advance toward the galaxy, back on the Council Station. An emergency session was called within hours of receiving Discovery's data. The chamber was packed with representatives from every member species. The mood was one of barely controlled panic. Vex single quotes Tar activated the display, showing the footage from the Discovery. This is what Captain Park's team found at the Galactic Rim. Intelligence Division has been cross-referencing it with our historical archives. Thelaros floated forward, his light dimmer than usual. I have found references. From 15,000 years ago, before the Council as we know it existed. Multiple species united to fight what the old records called the Swarm. A machine intelligence that consumed everything in its path. What happened to it? Someone asked. According to the records, our ancestors drove it beyond the galactic rim at tremendous cost. Billions died, entire species were wiped out. They believed the swarm was destroyed. But it wasn't, Vexler said grimly. It survived. And it's been growing for 15,000 years in the darkness between galaxies, a council military officer stood. How long until it reaches our space? At current speed, 3 years, Thelaros said. But it's accelerating. And as it consumes matter along the way, it will grow exponentially. By the time it arrives, it could number in the millions of ships. Silence fell over the chamber. The Council had faced no serious military threat in thousands of years. Their fleets were ceremonial, their weapons were outdated. They had spent so long at peace that they had forgotten how to prepare for war. What can we do? Someone asked, their voice small and afraid. Vexler looked tired, older than his years. I don't know. Our ancestors barely stopped this threat when it was smaller. Now it's massive, and we are weaker than they were. We have no weapons capable of fighting such numbers. We have no experience with this kind of warfare. In the back of the chamber, Ambassador Jiwon had been listening quietly. Now she stood. High Chancellor, may I speak? Please, Vexler said, gesturing for her to approach. Jiwon walked to the center platform. 3 years ago, this council gave humanity an ultimatum: surrender or be destroyed. We refused because we believed the universe might not be safe, that there might be threats requiring preparation, vigilance, and the will to fight. She paused, looking around at the assembled aliens. You thought we were paranoid. You thought our military preparations were aggressive and dangerous. You were wrong. We weren't preparing to attack you. We were preparing for this. You knew about the swarm? Vexler asked. No, Jiwon admitted. We didn't know what the threat would be. But we knew there would be a threat eventually. The universe is vast and old. Assuming we were alone or assuming everyone would be friendly seemed foolish. So what do you propose? Jiwon took a breath. 3 years ago you asked for Earth's surrender. We refused. Today you face an enemy that will destroy everything you've built. Everything you've protected for 10,000 years. And today you're asking yourselves if you can survive. She looked directly at Vexler. The answer is yes, but not alone. And not with your current approach. You need to remember how to fight. You need to innovate. You need to take risks. You need to do things you haven't done in thousands of years. And humanity can help with this? Vexler asked. We can do more than help, Jiwon said. We've been preparing for this our entire history. Fighting impossible odds is what humans do best. But we can't do it alone either. We need your resources, your numbers, your production capacity. Together we might have a chance. In the Unified Defense Command bunker, President Minho watched the council session on a secure channel. Beside him stood Captain Daeyun and Dr. Sugi. She's asking us to fight a war for them, Daeyun said. No, Minho corrected. She's asking us to fight a war with them. There's a difference. If that swarm reaches the galaxy, it won't stop at Council Space. It'll come for Earth, too. Can we win? Suji asked. Minho looked at the tactical data. 50,000 ships now. Millions eventually? All identical, all perfect killing machines with no fear, no mercy, no hesitation. I don't know, he admitted. But I know we have to try. Jiwan is right. This is what we've been preparing for. Not council ultimatums. This, a real threat that requires everything we have. He activated his communication system. Captain Park, prepare the fleet. Dr. Kwan, accelerate all weapons development programs. We're going to need everything we've got and things we haven't invented yet. And the council? Dayan asked. We're going to teach them how to fight again. Let's hope they're fast learners. Back on the council station, Vexler stood before his fellow representatives. Ambassador Kim speaks truth. We face extinction if we do nothing. Our only chance is to work with humanity, to combine our strengths, to remember what our ancestors knew about survival. He paused, then said something he never thought he would say. Humanity, we need your help, not because we command it, not because we expect it, but because we're asking as friends. As allies, will you stand with us? Jiwan smiled. It was a sad smile, but determined. 3 years ago, you demanded our surrender. We laughed because we knew the universe was dangerous. We prepared because we knew threats would come. But we also hoped that when those threats arrived, we wouldn't face them alone. She looked around the chamber at all the alien faces watching her. Yes, Chancellor, we'll stand with you. Not because you command us, not because we expect anything in return, but because you're our friends now, and that's what friends do. Commander Ji-hoon received his orders an hour later. All ships to battle stations. Begin training operations with Council forces. We have 3 years to turn a peaceful civilization into a fighting force. Time to get to work. On the bridge of the indomitable spirit, Ji-hoon looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, in the darkness between galaxies, an ancient evil was coming. But humanity wouldn't face it alone. And neither would the Council. All hands, he broadcast to his fleet. This is Commander Kong. 3 years ago, we showed the galaxy we couldn't be conquered. Now we're going to show them why. Not because we love war, but because we protect what matters.